So hello everyone and welcome to today's exchange. The title of this exchange is Serving Up Success, a Guide to Sustainable Catering, and it will last approximately 45 minutes. Today's webinar is in the Procurement and Supplier Engagement LIFE framework, and more information about LIFE, whether you're on it or thinking about starting it, can be found on our website. Thank you for registering, and thanks also to today's speakers. We've got Lee Farmer from the Sustainable Restaurant Association, and we also have Darren Procter, who's the head chef at Plymouth University. My name's Emma, and I'm the Member Events and Communities Officer here at the EAUC. As you know, the EAUC develop and administrate the Sustainability Exchange, which aims to be the world's leading resource of sustainability information, and you can search for these resources at www.sustainabilityexchange.ac.uk. So what are exchanges? Exchanges are free, short lunchtime webinars on a range of sustainability topics. Anyone can present them, and if you are interested in doing so, just get in touch with myself or the Sustainability Exchange at eauc.org.uk email. So I've just got a little bit of housekeeping to go over now before I pass you over to today's speakers. I'm hoping that everybody can hear me well. I have been messaging a couple of people just to help sort out some audio issues, but I think most people can hear well. I have muted you all right now just to avoid any background noise, and you'll continue to be muted throughout the webinar. If you are having any technical issues during today's webinar at any point, it's best to try and message me in the chat box, which is in the bottom right hand side of your screen as you see it now, or you can send me an email to easton@eauc.org.uk, and that's on the screen at the moment as well. So hopefully most of you also have working microphones or have dialed in on a phone. Don't worry if not, as you will still have the opportunity to ask any questions at the end by posting them in the chat box, and I will read them aloud on behalf of you. But we do encourage some dialogue and interaction with everybody, so if you did want to unmute yourself at the end and ask your question, then you can do so as well. The webinar today is being recorded, and it will be uploaded as a resource on the Sustainability Exchange later on today, and I'll send you a link to this along with a video that Darren will explain, and also today's presentation. This can also be shared to anyone, so any colleagues who may be interested as well or couldn't make it today. Once the webinar is finished, I'll also be sending out a short survey. This is just to gain any insight and feedback into today's webinar, and also it helps us to develop our CPD and training program for our members and wider. So please do take a few minutes to fill out that. It's not very long. So that's it from me for now. I'll be here and I'll be ready to help with any questions at the end. So thanks again for registering, and I will now pass you over to Lee.
Hi there. Hi, can everyone hear me okay? Brilliant. Okay, so thank you very much, Emma, for the introduction. As you said, I am the marketing manager at the Sustainable Restaurant Association, and it is my pleasure to look after our university and further education program. Darren from Plymouth has very kindly agreed to join me on this presentation today, but I'm just going to spend a few minutes introducing our organisation and what we do before handing over to Darren, who will talk in more detail about his experiences of sustainability and working with the S.R.A. So, without further ado, who are we? Well, the Sustainable Restaurant Association is a not-for-profit organisation, and we have been around now for around 5 years. We started quite fittingly over a lunch and launched with just 32 restaurant members. We are now working at around 4,500 sites in the UK predominantly, but also abroad, and are working with everyone from cafes to caterers, contract and cookery schools, from fish and chip shops to fine dining restaurants. The one thing that everyone we work with has in common is a passion for food and a drive to make a difference. We all love eating out, and we want to make sure that future generations will be able to enjoy the same experiences that we've had. So it's very important to us to make sure that sustainability is right at the core of every business that is preparing and serving food. Sustainability is not an easy subject. There is an awful lot out there, and the landscape is quite fragmented. So when our organisation launched, its core aim was to help restaurateurs and anyone in the food service business who wanted to start taking action on these issues to be able to navigate the landscape. So the S.R.A. developed a framework that acts as a sort of one-stop shop for sustainability. We bring it down into sort of 3 core pillars and take what is essentially a full spectrum approach. So it's not just about the way that food is sourced, but it's everything from planet to plate and back again. We look at issues around sourcing, but also take into consideration things like society and the environmental aspect, because ultimately when you're enjoying a meal, part of that enjoyment comes from knowing that the staff that are serving it have been treated fairly, and that any food that isn't ultimately eaten that food waste will be treated as well as it possibly can be, whether it's prevented or sort of turned into something as valuable as it can be. So how do we work? Well, as I mentioned, we're a membership organisation. So we take every member from any sector that we work with through the same process. We assess their sustainability, and that is through an online survey that asks questions about each of those 14 key areas that I just showed you. From that, we review performance, and we look to celebrate those businesses that are doing great things. So we have a star rating system. The other core part of the S.R.A. is about constant striving for improvement. So we allocate each of the members that we work with a sustainability account manager, and they are there as an ongoing resource to help members to strive to be the best that they can be. Sustainability is ultimately a journey, so even if there is already some good stuff going on, there's always an opportunity to do more, and we want to help our members to do that. As I said, we're here today in the sort of further and higher education space, and that is an area, a sector that we moved into only last year. We recognise this fantastic opportunity that university and college caterers have to sort of feed the stomachs but also the minds of the next generation. And that was an area that we really wanted to be involved with. It became very clear to us that the challenges, the sustainability challenges that you face will not be the same as those faced within other sectors. And so it was important that both the assessment and the programme was designed to be sector specific. And it was at that point that we approached 2 universities that we knew were already doing some fantastic work in terms of their sustainability, and asked them to help us develop a programme that would be most fitting for the sector. And those universities were Brighton, but also Plymouth. And it's we were delighted to work with Darren on that programme and to have him here today to talk a little bit more about what is going on at the University of Plymouth. So I will hand over to Darren to talk to you about that.
Can you hear me? Okay, so thanks, Lee. That was great, and certainly sort of got us where we are now. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Plymouth and why we're sort of doing what we're doing and why we got involved with the S.R.A. and what that's done for us. So, I mean, we've just, as you can see from this first screen, that's our branding now, and that's what we're sort of using on our literature and on our food products, and even down to sort of simple things like stickers. And we're talking about the local and the sustainable and the fresh elements to what we're doing, and that being our principal driver. Plymouth University has a great history of sustainability, and so that was the real initial reason why it's come into the catering, and there was elements of it there already, but we've been the overall highest achieving university in the People and Planet Green League, and we've had an unbroken sequence of top 4 placements in the last 4 years. This year we topped the chart, and great for us in the food side of it was that we achieved 90% in that assessment. Sustainability is also one of the university's key strategic targets. It's a personal passion of mine, and it's something that I've, looking at the list of attendees today, there's some, really educated and scholared individuals in this field. I mean, for me, it's a real passion. It's something that, I'm learning as I go forward. I'm conscious of, what is right and what is wrong when we're talking sustainability, and that's why, it's been a driver here, and it's something that I've got my management team to adopt. And I think that the last reason is something that, it can't be ignored, is that it's beginning to be a serious customer expectation that we know where the foods come from, and that what we're doing is ethically right, all the way from, the animals we're using and cooking, and where they're being sourced from, all the way through to waste. When I joined Plymouth, which was back in September 2013, we were involved with a few bodies already, and we were doing some good things. I mean, we were working with the Soil Association on the Food for Life, and we had some bronze awards in that. We won the Good Egg Award, and I put us through that process because we'd already achieved that really by always sourcing free-range eggs. And we're also a fair trade university, and since 2012 up to last year's figures, we were up 70% on our fair trade purchases, and that's sort of around about £24,000 we now invest in quite a lot of confectionery and some fruits in that that are fair trade accredited. So then, why did we get involved with the S.R.As? What I'm moving to now, obviously. Well, basically, we share their mission. So, or definitely I do. So, to make the sustainability part of the DNA of every business preparing and serving food is, sums it up really. I mean, I do quite often get asked, why are you worrying about sustainability, or why sustainability? And just asking the question baffles me. I mean, it should just be in our DNA that, it's a principal thing we care about as much as we care about, the hygiene or the look of the premises or just the food item we fancy for that day, to eat. Okay, we also wanted a broader view of our sustainable actions. So not just sourcing, which for me has been quite an easy, quick fix, but also then doing some things, society. Community engagement's a great one. We just had, part of our fair trade celebrations. We had a local primary school in yesterday, and involved them in the event we did. We did a tea party, and then environment as well, which again, quite a lot of accreditations will cover those things, but not to the level that the S.R.A. do, and they've helped us moving forward as well with our action plans, etc., which I'll come to in a bit. Okay, and then we also, obviously, we want to improve, and it's not always straightforward, and getting more minds and more people involved and to discuss your, what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong is always great. And there is things that, obviously, from my point of view as a catering background, I can pick up very quickly and spot and say we're not doing that right, and that's a bad thing. But the S.R.A, have enabled us to sort of buy into some bigger ideas and bigger thinking in a wider range of expertise. So, I mean, principally we wanted to be part of a growing organisation that's relevant and recognisable outside of the university community, and that is what the S.R.A delivers. Certainly for me, when I'm able to eat out and see their branding and check their website and hear about things that are outside these four walls, I think it just gives it a little bit more credit. And also that we were able to pick up on the successes we're already doing and celebrate those, and also going back to the action plans and the review we get, we can evaluate those shortcomings and start to look to improve. And that's a great statement there, that it's the Michelin stars of sustainability, and we've certainly adopted that in our press releases, and to add some weight behind what we're doing. And it's very easy to talk about your successes yourself, but if you can have an organisation that's independent, talking about it and confirming it, it's been very positive. So I wanted just to say quickly a couple of the real things that we've had a huge success with. So when I started, we were purchasing IQF fish that was imported from China, and it gave us a consistent product, but a really unsustainable one. So just by simply talking to our fish supplier, whose name quite comically is Moby Nick, we were able to chat with him and see where he comes from and what works for him. And what we came up with was that he would purchase the fish that was plentiful that day. Our only stipulation was that it was a white fish that we could batter, and that it wasn't on the fish to avoid list. And simply by it being plentiful that day, means it's sustainable. And that the fish are caught on day boats. They're all micro businesses. So it's not just about the fish; it's also about the local economy. And we're supplying these micro businesses rather than huge beam trawlers. And as I say here, our main kitchen alone is using over 9,000 portions a year. So we've changed from this unsustainable imported frozen product into now a fresh fish that changes daily. And something else I'll go on to in a little bit is the communicating with the customers. So we just write that up every single day what the fish is, and it's it can be whiting or pouting, and the customers love that, and they really buy into it because we're able to get that point across via the chalkboards and our staff. And then also what we've done is just looked at all our supply. So, and where we know we've got good local supply, and the first sort of 5 names on that list, they're all small local businesses. We've also, which is sustainable, which is a positive thing, but we've also looked at exactly what they're doing and asked them questions as well, and used our power as a big purchaser to sort of say, look, that's great, but we want this and we want you to do that. And for example, with Tim of You, who supply all our fruit and vegetables, we've able to sort of get them into a situation where they're now purchasing more organic products and more fair trade. And what that means is the knock-on effect there is that now they're stocking that product and can promote that amongst their other customers within the Plymouth area, and then it starts to branch out, and we can influence that sort of element. We've also changed over to organic milk, and that's the price hasn't been a huge difference, and again, it's something that they've said is moving within their other customers. And then down at the bottom, 3663. For us as a huge caterer, it's impossible for us not to have a sort of a big central company like that delivering us fresh and frozen and ambient products. So what we did there is just had a look at exactly who can provide us that and what's the best option, and we found 3663 for us because they have a depot that's less than 10 miles away. The depot itself is zero to landfill. They also do a lot of work with a local charity foundation called the Devon and Cornwall Food Association, and through them we're involved with them now, and 3663 donate their sort of split bags of flour and products that are damaged, or where a lot of food groups and Salvation Army, etc., won't take those products. The Devon and Cornwall Food Association will, and they take those items, and they do the same from us. We give them sandwiches and short-dated items and surplus food, and then they'll package that and give it out to a collection of around about 70 charities that work within the Plymouth City. So there is shortfalls in using companies like 3663, but then it's just getting that balance right and making the right decision and working with a company that can do as much as possible. So the other big thing that is part of the S.R.A. and I've pinched a line here actually from Food for Life, so I'll admit that as I think there's somebody here from them. So telling people about where food comes from is an important part of changing eating habits. And, we know it's right, or I certainly know it's right, to be doing things, sourcing locally, using sustainable. But, you can't make the presumption that the customer does. And so we use chalkboards to communicate. I know it's very clear, but the one on the right-hand side just shows us, it tells you it's West Country beef. And then we have the signs telling people where our suppliers are and the food miles there. And then we've also had these little sort of trifold leaflets produced, and there's also a version of these at a table talker which cover all our what we're doing and why we're doing it, and also gets people sort of understanding some of the brands not the brands, the badges, the logos we're using. So I mean, in the center page there, the bottom right hand is the Sustainable Fishing Scheme, and that's the organisation that we purchase all our fish through, and it's not widely known, so it's sort of good just to put that on there, and we also use that on our website as a link. And there's the second page of that, which talks about our awards and our food chain, and also our ethical sourcing. So letting people know the milk's organic. It's not always obvious. Letting people know that that all the eggs are free range, and that some of the little things we do as well, like source our charcuterie from a UK company, so it's RSPCA Freedom Food. The Green Gown Award is links in with something Emma said at the beginning, which was as part of the process of being shortlisted for the Green Gown Award, we had to produce a video. So I was hoping to show that, but we couldn't get the sound on, so we'll provide a link for that. But we produced a video ourselves. It's sort of 8 minutes long, and it just covers some of the things I've talked about. It shows us going to the fish market, and also going out to see the potatoes being farmed, and all within sort of 3 or 4 miles of the city. And it also shows the DCFA and some of the work they do, and it shows the S.R.A. commenting and just confirming that we've done fantastic and that we have the 3-star Sustainable Champion rating. So, I mean, the future for us, and again, the S.R.A. have been working really closely with us on all these points. So it's straight away, almost after we'd completed the assessment and we started moving forward, I was put in contact with an eco-chemicals company that worked with the S.R.A. and they produce their chemicals in the UK, and although it says the future, we have just done that now. So we've changed over from a company that isn't as sustainable, and now we've moved that supply to water-based chemicals that are, again, like I just said, produced in the UK. We're also looking to change over our compostable cups to reusable cups and use. I mean, that's not a new thing for a lot of universities, but it will be something that is new to us. we're looking at higher animal welfare standards. And what I'm principally talking about there is sort of free range. So I think, you know, you can probably, anybody in the university sector can understand that it's not straightforward to sort of deliver a, you know, free range product for the price bracket we're working in. You know, we're sort of charging £5.50 at the most for a meal, and so that's something that, as I then go on to say, we're working closely with the student body and doing that through a Sustainable Champion, which is a voluntary role that a student has taken up, and we're wanting to discuss these sort of things with the students and say, you know, is this a priority for you? Are you happy to pay extra for this sort of product? And is it something that, you know, you recognise as being a winner, a big thing, of something that's important to you? So what was very interesting when we had the S.R.A. come on campus and during Freshers Week was when they were asked about the things that were important to them, and it goes back to I'll just flick through for you. It goes back to the screen that Lee talked about with the sourcing and society and environment. We asked the students to propose it note on the thing that mattered the most to them, and for me, I thought it would definitely be something like the sustainable fish. It's quite an emotive subject, but most people, or the biggest one was the treating people fairly. So it's really interesting to sort of get that information and don't make the assumptions that, you know, what you think is important necessarily isn't, you know, the priority for customers. So. Okay, and that concludes what I had to say.
Brilliant, thank you, Darren, and thank you, Lee. I have unmuted the two of you now just to see whether there are any discussions or questions coming out of our audience today. So if anyone does have any questions to either Darren or Lee, now's your opportunity. We've got about 15 minutes, so we've got some time to have a bit of a conversation going. So if anyone either wanted to type them into the chat box, or they did actually want to unmute themselves right now, and you can ask your question now. Just give everyone a couple of minutes, just because it can take a little bit of time to type out a question. But equally, if there aren't any questions, but you do find that you have one later on today or at any point, then I'm sure Darren and Lee will be happy to answer any questions. And they can either be passed over to myself via email or directly to them. Okay, brilliant. We've got a question that's come in now. And it's probably one directed to Lee, although I'm sure, Darren, you could probably answer it as well. But it's, what is the cost of signing up to the S.R.A?
So S.R.A. membership, as I mentioned, we are a not-for-profit organisation. So membership fees are simply there to cover staff time. The online assessment that I mentioned, one sort of crucial piece of the puzzle for us is that after our members filled in their part of it, we do an evidence collection process. So we'll ask questions, for example, on your egg supply, whether your eggs are free range, and if you tell us that they are, we'll then give your egg supplier a call. So that does take a little bit of time to that process, and then there's obviously the sort of ongoing account management. So the way that we try to structure fees to be as fair as possible is based on student numbers. So that's an annual cost. It starts at around £645 per year and goes upwards from there based on the scale of the organisation. It's an annual fee, so we'd ask all our members to do a rating every year. In terms of the rating itself and what it actually covers, we try to bring as much as we possibly can under one rating. So that would be cafes, restaurants, and also any sort of hospitality that you might do on campus. Where we wouldn't be able to bring things under one rating would be if there was a very, very different sort of procurement policy. But otherwise, it would be sort of one fee for as much as possible within the university. I can absolutely get over a full rate card for anybody who's interested that will give you a breakdown so you can work it out for your organisation.
Brilliant.
I think I'll just cut in there quickly. Is that from our point, we just had one rating, and that was why it was sort of bespoke for universities. So it incorporated our hospitality and then cafes and then the sort of bigger end restaurants. So it's sort of, I think from a university caterer, the first thing you think of is, goodness, I've got 7 cafes and our hospitality. It's going to be 8 different assessments, but that wasn't the case for ourselves, and Brighton did the same. So it was one assessment, so it was one fee.
Lovely. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Lee. I've just got a sort of question which I'm sure is on a few people's minds as well, as the majority of our delegates today are part of the sustainability team or even in the estates department. So in terms of sort of connecting with and engaging with the catering managers, obviously Darren is you're very engaged yourself, so there probably wasn't this issue and you were probably directly contacted. Is there any advice out there, or Lee, do you work with those who have contacted you to sort of persuade the catering team and get them on board as well, or have you not had that experience where that's become an issue?
No, it's happened a few times. It's very common, and I know that I suppose there can be various approaches. We've had conversations with sustainability officers, with environmental teams, and also with the catering teams directly. If there is an appetite for it at the university, then we're more than happy to talk to anybody who's interested. What I would say in terms of moving the programme forward, it does make sense to have the buy-in from the catering manager, because obviously they're going to have their finger sort of most on the pulse in the day-to-day. And as you've heard from Darren, he's the man in charge of the menu and the sourcing and all of those elements. So we would probably ultimately recommend working with the catering manager, but there is no reason for a sustainability officer not to be part of that as well. I know some universities also have questions where the catering might be outsourced to a contract caterer, so to a Sodexo, to a Chartwell. We are working with universities where that's the case. And again, ultimately the university or the college is the client. So if it's something that they want, then it hasn't presented a problem to work with a contract caterer. And we do that in various sectors that we work in.
Lovely, thank you. I realised that I think I might have cut John off there because he did unmute himself as I asked a question at the same time. So, John, I'll just unmute you as well. Did you have a question, or was that a similar one?
No, sorry that I'm late. Actually, we've just been in the water, energy and carbon group, so I wanted to hear about the presentation. Obviously, I mean, my main query with this is obviously Plymouth have been very successful this year in the Green League, and how it ties in with the Green League point scoring system and how they've managed to do that.
Okay, should I jump? I'll jump in.
Yeah, Darren, I think that's one for you.
I don't know if I can give you a really good definitive answer, but if I can elaborate a bit, is that our sustainability manager was responsible for completing the Green League application. I mean, I don't know how exactly that score was broken down, and how, I mean, you would have missed, but the food was scored 90% in that league. I mean, principally, I think for the most part of the Green League, it's when they're looking at the food, it's looking at the sourcing, and so we've, because we've addressed all those things, and we've looked at, we've looked at quite a lot of our food miles as well as the actual source, the source product itself, so be it sort of free range or fair trade or you know, on the fish to eat list, etc. So I think it's happened naturally because we've looked at all those things and said, you know, the principal consideration above all else is sustainability, and then we'd obviously look at cost, and so I think it's been a natural sort of reward for that policy. Have I covered that or not?
Yeah, pretty much so. At the university here, we've done a lot of things towards making our menus more sustainable. We started with eggs. We then had a sustainable source fish supplier.
Yeah.
We then looked at meat and, you know, obviously fair trading with that. There's a lot that the catering staff have already done. But what they haven't done is, I've presented a case, you've done so much towards an accreditation of form, you know, which one are you going to go for? And it was actually the catering manager that sent the link to this webinar. So they're thinking about the S.R.A. accreditation. So my question really was, it seems like you've had a benefit from doing S.R.A. through the People and Planet audit, which is obviously a concern that I wanted to just verify, is if we've got the support of the catering outfit, which in some universities is difficult to get on board, is, you know, how we're going to start to work towards an accredited standard. Is this the right one? And really wanted to pull out. It seems like they really want to go for this now, as opposed to the Soil Association one, which is good news for me because they're driving it forward. So just kind of lessons learnt from you would have been really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it is just my personal opinion, but you know, I would recommend using the S.R.A. because of it's more of an understanding and fairer assessment, and so you know the scores are there if it's right, and you're still part of the accreditation scheme if you're not doing certain things. Whereas with the Soil Association, there is a little bit of lack of flexibility. And when you go back to the Green League, there was a little bit of a stumbling block with them recognising that the S.R.A. were independent, but that's now not the case. They do accept that their report is genuine and not such genuine, but is independent and not just a simple tick box. Yes, we do it. So they're on board with it as well. And
right.
And some of the things some of the things maybe that you're not sure of, and personally things I haven't been aware of, the S.R.A. are there and pick those up and put that in their report and in the action plan.
So they're being quite supportive to your process, yeah?
Very much, yeah.
Right.
Sorry, can I chip in just for one second? Just to say that I think sometimes it, you know, and there might be a budgetary reason where it becomes necessary to compare one to the other. But in fact, the Food for Life catering mark and what the S.R.A. offering is quite different. So I would hate to give the impression that they're mutually exclusive. I think we really support what the Soil Association are doing. And you know, it's very much a food focus that they have. So just the same as we, you know, would support our members doing something like MSc, the Food for Life, you know, mark fits very neatly under our sort of umbrella approach. So they say, I know there might be other reasons why it might be an either or, but please don't think that they, you know, that one replaces the other.
But they said if you want to go from 1 till 3, we might be able to.
Lovely, thank you, Lee, and thank you, Darren. Hopefully that answers John's question. I've had another question come in for you, Lee, and it's they're just wondering if the criteria for the ratings are publicly available.
They aren't as such. There are, you know, if somebody has a specific question about an area that they would like to, you know, see the question set forward, then, you know, I'm more than happy to have a chat about that. What does become available after? So I suppose there's two sides to that. It's initially for a prospective member to understand how the rating works and say, there I can give a breakdown of the 14 key areas and also some example questions if that's useful. Once a member has done a rating and has been assessed, if you're happy for us to make your score public, and that's totally your choice, then we have sort of various ways to do that. So that report is something that we can publish on our website, and it will just highlight some of the great things that you're doing. And we also then have a PR and marketing team who can help to communicate that more publicly as well. So I know Darren got some, some good recognition for that and did some great stuff on his campus as well to let the students know what was going on. But yes, the question set specifically isn't something that we publish because obviously there's a bit of IP to it.
Okay, so it's the questions aren't publicly available. It's the sort of frameworks and things like that that
exactly. Yeah, the frameworks and then the results and things. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'm pretty sure that answers the question. I don't know whether Lee or Darren, you've had any questions come into you directly, but I don't think I've had any other ones. But
I don't think so. Not that I can see here.
No.
No, I'm just having a quick scroll. I don't think so. So if there aren't any, then I think we should end today's webinar. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, everyone. Oh, John's just mentioned that student visibility is really important, which it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed.
And that's something that, as Darren mentioned with the Sustainable Champion, and we did put together a sort of student engagement plan and ways of sort of talking to and educating students on these sorts of topics, and where we've been working with colleges as well. I know they've been using some of our resources where there's a sort of catering training program, using some of the resources that we have on various subjects, our fact sheets and things, to actually integrate those into the curriculum. So there are some opportunities there as well.
Brilliant, thank you. And if there were universities or colleges who are either watching live today or watching the recorded program, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
So for me, you can email me. I think my email address is just at the end and the start of this presentation. So I am Lee, L-E-I-G-H, at the S.R.A.org. You can also give me a call. My number isn't there, but it's 0207 479 4226.
Brilliant, and I'll pop those details up on the resource page with the recorded podcast, the presentation, Darren's Green Gown Award-winning video, and any other sort of resources or information that might be useful. Perfect. Okay, brilliant. Well, no more questions come in, so I think I'll finish the webinar today. Thank you again for everybody who has attended, and thank you, Lee and Darren, for presenting. I found that very insightful, so I'm sure everybody else did as well. And brilliant, and hopefully see you all on the next webinar, if not at conference next month. But yeah, see ya. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.